All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone, who very well, very beautifully. Double salutations, double salutations to the Akim out here pushing this gospel in truth and in sincerity to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Lord willing, fall upon your houses. This is Brother Quanawath, come back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. Just like it. So yeah, man, I was ultimately, watching the Preacher R's, video he recently did earlier today. I can't remember the exact title, but it basically, said here arose, and then it says, entering your name. And it was a very beautiful, right, and edifying lesson, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, and ultimately, he touched on, this chapter right here, 2nd Maccabees, and the first verse, right, talking about how, the Lord ultimately rose, Mattathias, to ultimately come up against, right, the wickedness of the heathens, as well as, the wickedness of Israel, right? Because you had Israelites, right, that were ultimately consenting unto these, these damn devils' religion, man, following after their ways, and again, Mattathias, he wasn't with it, man. He touched on that, man, and ultimately, I paused the video, man, and I just started reading First Maccabees, the 2nd chapter as a whole, right? It's a very beautiful and powerful, book, right? The Maccabees, right? 1st and 2nd Maccabees, very beautiful books, man. But I want to touch on this, right? Ultimately, and going in and remembering, right, the integrity of Mattathias, man, and that same integrity which he ultimately passed down, right, to his sons, which again, as you read the Maccabees, right, you ultimately see, right, exactly what I'm talking about, right? But I'll just start right here. This is 1st Maccabees chapter 2, and I'll start at verse 1, right? It says, in those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, the priest, it's like a priest of the son of Jorib, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons: Johanan, called Caddis, Simon, called Thassi, Judas, who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar, called Avaron, and Jonathan, whose surname was Apphus. Right, and again, as you know, right, we know the name Judas Maccabeus, ultimately out of all those names, right, stand out, right? And again, the torch was passed down from Mattathias, to, Judas Maccabeus. Now, ultimately, all his sons, right, were part of, and had the integrity that their father did, right, Mattathias, right? They kept the integrity, they kept, following the law, statutes, commandments of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, right, and denying, the religion, right, or way of life that the heathens were ultimately trying to force them onto, so they stood, on their faith in Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, man, and it says right here, it says, and when he saw the blasphemies, verse 6, and when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, right, and this is what he said, right, it says, he said, woe is me, wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers, right? So he had seen, basically, what had happened, right, what had transpired, and what is, in that present moment, right, what was happening, and that ultimately, he was in that spirit of, man, fuck this shit, man, right? Just as we are today, right? Pursuant to, and I'm going to quote it, right? 2 Peter's, right? The 2nd chapter, right? Starting at the 7th verse, right? Speaking on Lot and how Lot, right? When he was in, because he dwelt in the time of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? When the Lord ultimately destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities, right? Lot was dwelling in Sodom and Gomorrah, man. And the scriptures talk about how he was vexed, from day to day with the filthy conversation of the wicked, man. That word conversation goes into not only conversation, right, as of, words that ultimately come out of your mouth, right, but as also goes into conduct, right, and how they were acting, right. And he saw a lot of those things, right, that were taking place. It's like a lot of those things that he saw, right, are taking place here today, man. And this is why we're vexed, man, because we see those same things, right? That sodomitish spirit on the people, right? As well as, many other different, nasty, filthy, abominable acts being performed here in America, man. And this is why brothers have said that, you got a lot of those Sodom and Gomorrah citizens that would look at America today and be like, damn, like they're overdoing it, man. Because America is the epicenter of wickedness, man. The evil and wickedness that's here in America is at an all-time high, right? All throughout history, America is at, its peak, And again, we're constantly vexed. And this is the mindset, right, that Mattathias is in, seeing all these things happen, man. And very well, a lot of the things that we see right today very well could have gone on back then, right, in the time of of Mattathias and Judas Maccabeus and so on and so forth, man. Right? We understand that the ways of the heathens are ultimately profane, right, beginning with Esau Edom, right, which profane meaning outside the temple, right, contrary to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua and his law, statutes, commandments, man. But I'll keep reading. Right, verse, actually, let me grab this real quick. Because, again, this is the spirit that we're coming in, right, even today, right? This is why we have to remember the integrity, right, of Mattathias, man, and how he ultimately, just like Job, right, he eschewed evil, right, he hated evil, This is Ezekiel chapter 9 and verse 4. It says, "And the Lord, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark, right, upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof." And that mark, right, is not going into the same mark, as Revelations 13 and 16, right? That word for mark in the Revelations 13 and 16 in the Greek is charagma, right? Which we understand that the charagma today is the RFID micro C-hit, man. It has never changed, right? It's not sin. Right, it's not white women, it's not sanctioned embargoes. We understand, right, that it is the RFID micro C-hip, and it's been proven, and it is being proven more and more, right, especially with the these damn Edomites from the World Economic Forum coming out and making those statements, right, talking about for you to ultimately be able to participate in society, you're gonna have to get an implantable C-hip, man, right? We're just proving again what that charagma is, But this mark, right, in the Hebrew is thawa, right, which is ultimately what? A mark of exemption, right? Exemption from judgment, right? Going back in the time of the Romans, they ultimately had a stone system, right? A white stone or a black stone. If you're in the jails, right, being those, gladiators or whatever, man, or just a prisoner, right? If you ultimately receive of a black stone, hey, what's going to happen, man? That means you're going to receive that judgment for whatever you did, right? And most likely it was going to be death, versus the white stone, right? The white stone, right? Which white, it's like white is symbolic for purity, right? For being clean, So when they hand you that white stone, it ultimately means what? You're starting over, right? A clean slate, right? You've been forgiven, right? And this is what that mark is, right? That thawa, that white stone, because they hate, right? They're against, what society is pushing, right? Just as we are today, man. This applies to us, Lord. Will we be part of the elect, man? We're in that same spirit, right? That sighing and that crying, man, right? Being in that state of mourning, for all these things that are done here, man. So let's go back to First Maccabees, the second chapter, and continue on in verse 8. It says, her temple is become as a man without glory. Right? It's talking about Israel. Right? That her is talking about Israel. Right? Which we proved that in Jeremiah, the 6th chapter, the 2nd verse. It says, Israel is likened unto a comely and delicate woman. So this is what, that her is talking about, right? Or that her is referring to. Right? It says, her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. And again, we see this even today, right? All our people, man, we're, we're constantly, right? Constantly being put to death, man, by Esau Edom, and it's, to a certain degree, right? It's legal. It's legal for Esau Edom to kill us, man. They got these sundown towns, right? Where ultimately, if any, Israelite, really a so-called black man, goes into any of these towns after a certain, a certain time, right? If it's dark, hey, well, guess what, man? They're ultimately going to come, and, ultimately put you to death because you're in a town that you're not supposed to be in, man. And you can go and look it up, man. Right? They still have these sundown towns, man. People have been doing videos on TikTok, YouTube, so on and so forth, right? About these towns recently, man. So they still exist. They're still here, right? Which again just shows you, right, that Esau's still killing our people even today, man. There's nothing new under the sun, man. So the same acts that, Mattathias, right, Judas Maccabeus, Job, Lot, we're all encountering, and we encounter these same things today, man. Continue on verse 10. It says, what nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? Because, hey, you go into the scriptures, right? You read Judges, right? So on and so forth. We've been put in captivity under every nation, in Esau Edom, which is, the captivity we're under right now. We're under the captivity of Esau Edom, right? This is the last of all the nations that we've been under captivity. This is the last one, man. And this is, as it is, right, the last one, man. The most brutal, of all the captivities that we've been in, man. So again, all these things that our forefathers have seen and been through, right? We're going through those same things, man, to a certain degree. We see the Moism, right? The hotel motels, and the Transformers, and our women just being completely destroyed, and and our people being against each other, right, at all-time highs, man. Which are ultimately part of the curses, right? But again, nonetheless, we see even more, right? Scriptures say that he afforded the affliction, right? Esau Edom have forwarded the affliction. So he's done a lot of things to our people, right? Traumatizing things, right? Buck breaking, right? Eating our people whenever, we ultimately don't do what he wants us to do, right? They eat us as a form of punishment. All these different things have happened throughout time, man, right? And to a certain degree, they still happen today, Verse 11, it says, all her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman, she has become a bondslave, right? It says, and behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. It says, to what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? Right? It says, and then this is, again, this is the spirit that Mattathias is in, right? That state of mourning, right? As it says right here, verse 14, it says, then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore, which again just shows you, right? That they're against this society, man, just as we are today, right? We're not with this shit, man. Scriptures talk about how we're not for Esau's turn, man, right? We don't want him to be in power no more, man, right? We've seen, the result of him being in power, and this ain't it, man. This shit is washed up, man. We're looking for what, right? We're looking for, a new heavens and a new earth, man, wherein dwells righteousness, man, right? Which is ultimately going to be, established here soon, man, right? Established, beginning with Yahweh Shai, right, down to King David, the 144,000, the rest of the elect, right, being in rulership, man, and Lord will, this very well could be that year, man, right? The elder apostle Tahar, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemi Al-Shai, ultimately deemed this year what, right? The hopeful year all prophecies come to pass, or, and again, Lord will, this is the year, man, but it very well could be, just keep hoping and keep praying, that this is the year, man. But again, just as, Mattathias was in this space, man, again, they as we read, which we're going to continue to read, right? They ultimately, they tried to, entice, entice him, right, to leave the law, statutes, commandments of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai and to follow theirs, right? Just as we, you read in the first chapter, right, where Antiochus Epiphanes ultimately wrote unto his whole kingdom that everyone should follow his laws, right, and leave the laws of their fathers, right, leave the laws of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, and again, they try to, they ultimately try to come after, Mattathias and try to entice him to ultimately turn, away from the law, statutes, commandments, man, just like they do, or just like they tried to, in Second Maccabees, the 6th chapter with Eleazar, right? Eleazar was an elder, right? A really respected man within Israel. And they ultimately tried, to get him to, turn against the law, statutes, commandments, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. But hey, guess what, man? He stood stiffly, right? For Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, man. Stood 10 toes on his faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. So we're going to read that again about Mattathias, right? Because he did the same thing, right? It was the same sentiment, right? Him being, a ruler higher up, right, within Israel, and knowing that people were going to follow him, they ultimately tried to entice him so that way they can get the masses, man. But he wasn't having it. Dropping down to verse 17, it says, Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on the wise, Thou art a ruler and an honorable man and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, right? Because again, you had a lot of Israelites, right, that were with this damn devil's agenda, man, which we see today, right? 2/3 of Israel, is going to continue to walk on that path. They're going to continue to, engage in this filth, man, And this is why they're ultimately going to have to be put to death, man. This is why 2/3 got to be put to death, It says, and such as remained at Jerusalem, so shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards, right? So again, they were trying to entice him, and with riches and being in a high position, right, in a high power, right, to turn from, and being friends with the king, right, but the catch was they had to leave the law, statutes, commandments, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. But again, Mattathias and his sons, being righteous men, they understood, right? They understood what that would, entail, right? It would entail them ultimately being killed, man, put to death by Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, man. Transgressing the law, statutes, commandments, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, right, is leads to death, right? Romans 6:23, the wages of sin is death, right? And we understand that sin is transgression of the law. 1 John, the 3rd chapter, the 4th verse, man. So they weren't about it, man. On top of that, right, our greatest example that we have now, right, is Yahushua. Yahushua was tempted, right? Matthew's the 4th chapter. You can read about that, right? The old, Yahushua was tempted with, rulership over the whole world, man. By Satan, man. Which we know, hey, that's Esau Edom, man. He was tempted. But Yahushua, nah, man. He denied all that, and still went through what he went through, man. Overcame this world, man. So how much more us, Lord, will we be part of the elect? Continue reading verse 19. It says, Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. Yahweh forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's word to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left. So he wasn't budging, man. And again, right, just to ultimately, compare it to the times that we're in right now, right? Esau's ultimately going to come down, and ultimately make it, to where, again, that he's going to try to entice you, right, with this charagma, man, right? Because we understand that Esau Edom had, he'd gotten his, what is it, his data, right, when it comes to the Icky Vicky and the lockdown and the Crown Vic Royale, man. The C19, right? That whole experiment, because that's exactly what it was, man. It was an experiment, He done got all his data, he gathered his data, who's going to be for his agenda, who's not going to be for his agenda, and so on and so forth, right? He done got all his data that he needs, right? So now he's ultimately going to do what? That was a trial run, right? Now he's going to implement those same measures on a heavier scale, right, when dealing with the push of this charagma, right? So you're going to see him, ultimately, destroy the money, which we're seeing right now, right? He's implemented, the Fed now is already out, right? So it's going to come time where, again, the dollar is completely done, right? My wife was ultimately driving, right, for Uber earlier today, and she had some Taiwanese ultimately get in the car, and they were ultimately talking, and it was a long enough drive to where she was able to ultimately, get out some information of they had a family member, right, that was living over in China, and all of China, the whole country of China, right, even in the little rinky-dink towns and stuff like that, they're all 100% digital, so you can't even go to the airport, you can't go anywhere and get any kind of, paper money, right, some solid physical money. You can't do it, man, right? So they're 100% digital, right? If you don't have, that digital form of a payment method, right, you're not going to be able to buy or sell anything, man, right? And this is the whole agenda. This is all roads lead to the charagma, because Klaus Schwab, I think it was a year or two ago, he said, I think it was like last year, but he said that China, right, is the number one role model for all, or should be the number one role model for all the rest of the countries in the world, man, right? And again, you're starting to see, right, these nations ultimately starting to follow suit, even here in America, man, right? So soon you're going to see that the dollar is completely done away with. There's not going to be no cash, and you're basically going to be put and forced into a position to submit, right? But the men of the Lord, right, are going to stand 10 toes on their faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. As it says, right, it says, strive for the truth unto death, and the Lord shall fight for us, man. And this is exactly what we're reading about, right? Romans 15:4, the things that are written aforetime are written for our learning, right? So we see these things that our forefathers ultimately went through and how they stood stiffly for the name of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. And well, these things should ultimately, give us, a boost in the faith, man. Right? That if we continue to follow in that same footsteps, right, and to apply that same spirit within ourselves, and well, guess what, man? We'll ultimately make it to the end. We'll ultimately be accepted of the Lord, man. Because again, Mattathias left that same, he ultimately encouraged, right, his sons to follow in that same footstep, man. And guess what? Right, Judas Maccabeus, being the head of all 5 of Mattathias' sons, right, kept that same spirit, man. And what happened? The Lord fought those battles for them, man. You could read all throughout the scriptures, man. The Lord did great miracles for them in the time of their trouble, in the time of their need, man. So how much more us in this time, man? Right? This is the things that we have to ultimately, keep in mind. These are these accounts that we have to read about, right, and get them burned into our mind, right? Daniel in the lion's den, right? Daniel's the 3rd chapter, the 3 holy children, right? Samson, right? King David, so on and so forth. All our ancestors and all the things that they went through and how they kept the faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, and that's what ultimately allowed them access to that power, access to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua and His mercy, man. Pursuing the Romans the 5th chapter, man. These are things that we have to keep in mind at all times, man. But I just wanted to read this little bit, as again, a faith booster. Lord wills, it was faith boosting, right, to those that are, able to hear, But I want to grab, I got a couple more precepts, man. Sirach chapter 2 and verse 10, it says, look at the generations of old and see. And this is what we're doing, right? We go back into these accounts, right, and look at them and read them and really digest, right, the situation, man, and put ourselves in those positions like, hey, yeah, man, when Esau Edom comes down, Lord will, right, the Lord can put the, the spirit of strength and endurance upon me. I'm going to be in that same spirit, man. We have to put ourselves in these positions, man, really meditate on them, right? It says, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? Right, man? And again, when you read the Maccabees, right, which really, you can ultimately go back and read, First Maccabees, that second chapter that we were just reading. When you read it right down to the end, right, he ultimately gives you that answer, man, right? That no one that has ever trusted in the Lord was ever confounded, man, But I do want to end it off with this. This is Psalms, the 22nd chapter, which is also another answer, right, to that question, right? King David answered that. The Psalms 22nd chapter, and the 4th verse, right? It says, our fathers trusted in thee. They trusted and thou didst deliver them. It says they cried unto thee and were delivered. They trusted in thee and were not confounded. That's right, man. So again, as long as we continue to trust and believe in Yahweh B'Shem El Shai, he will fight for us, man. Right? And this is, again, all the way to the death, man. Right? There's no retiring in this thing, man. There's no giving up. Right? That's not an option. We are to continue in the faith all the way into the end, man. Lord, will we be part of the elect? We will, if we ultimately, die for the name of Yahweh B'Shem El Shai, we will be rose up first, man. We'll be rose up. It's like you're risen up. It's like your wrong word, choice. We'll be risen up, right, to be the first ones on the chariot, man. As the scriptures say, whether we die or whether we live, we are Hamashiachs, man. Right? So it don't matter, man. Scriptures also say, precious, is a death. Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. Roughly paraphrasing, man. You could look that up, So at the end of the day, man, as long as we stand, continue to believe and trust in Yahweh B'Shem El Shai, man, we're good, man. Again, Lord, will we be part of the elect? But I just wanted to get that out, man. As, Lord will, was informative. Lord will was a faith booster, man. We're almost out of here, man. We're almost in the kingdom, right? Just a few more prophecies left, man. We're just take it one day at a time, man. That's all we can do. Just keep praying, keep the faith, keep abounding, in the spirit as much as possible, man. So with that, Lord will was edifying. Lord will was straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahushua, B'Hashem, Rachak, Wadash, double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the great millstone. Till next time, I say shalom.